why.
If I could go ahead and ask everyone to get seated.
Always such a wonderful.
We are all here for the woman I'm honored to call aunt. Some of us get to call her coach, or mom, or sister, or friend. And so I just, on behalf of my Aunt Vivian Scott, I would like to welcome you all and thank you for being here. And so, without further ado, I give you Vivian Scott.
Thank you so much for coming here. You're probably wondering why in the world I would be doing this. Okay. My dad can enter a room with 2 words and get everyone laughing. Those 2 words are no laughing. So, when 20 years ago, Kevin and I went on a cruise and saw a comedian, and he was really, really funny, okay? And then the next morning, we saw him eating breakfast by himself, and we sat down, asked if we could sit with him, and we realized he was very dull, like very dull. So I thought, wow, you don't have to be a funny person to be a comedian. And so ever since then, I've wanted to do stand-up. So I do have a disclaimer tonight that I have no formal training to do anything I'm going to do tonight. All right? So that's why I want you to just lower your expectations. So when I turned 50, I thought I either want to be somewhere really, really awesome, like Iceland, seeing the Northern Lights, or I wanted to do this stand-up. So the Northern Lights weren't in the stars, so that's why I'm here tonight. All right, so I was born in Houston. I had 2 older sisters. My parents are from the Philippines. And a lot of you here know my sisters, right? As very generous and kind people. But as sisters go, they were mean. Yeah, we'd play hide and go seek, and they'd say, okay, you count first, all right? And so I'd count, and then I couldn't find them anywhere because they had left and gone to the candy store. They'd also tell me, you need a nap. And I'd be like, I'm like 8 years old. I'm not tired. Do you want a spanking? Yeah. So growing up, I actually, being the youngest, I think normally the youngest are, do we have any youngest kids here? Yes. I think youngest kids are a lot of times the funniest, and they get away with the most, right? So I actually got in trouble quite a bit. I got sent to the principal's office in every single school I went to. In elementary school, I got sent twice. Once for fighting, and once for forging my parents' signature on a sad note for talking. And I was in 2nd grade. Yeah, I don't know why they could figure out that I signed it, but they did. So I called my parents, and at home, my parents said, "Well, what do you think we should do about this?" And I was like, "No TV for an hour, or how about no butter on my rice?" I like you, Nathan. Thank you very much. All right. In junior high, I got in trouble again for fighting. And this time it was in the locker room, and I was fighting with a pipsquirt pen. Does anyone remember those? You would fill up this little pen, and then you squirt water with people, and ooh, this is really, really violent. Be careful, you might get water on your arm. So in high school, I was into the office for sharing. How could I do that, right? I after lunch, I like to share my cookie, right, with my teacher. And I just said, hey, Miss Clegg, here's my cookie. The only thing was, she did not catch it, all right? It actually like hit her a little bit in the face. And so the guys in my class were like, ooh, you're out of here. You're totally out of here. So she writes me up on this piece of paper, and I go to the office, and on the way there I realize it says, as I walked in, Vivian threw cookies at me. I was like, oh, good grief. So I'm sitting in front of the office, and as she reads it, she's just like, what? And she's like, why did you do this? And I said, I don't know. She's like, okay, well, you can spend a day at D Hall thinking about that. So a couple weeks ago, you remember Facebook was down? Instagram was down, right? Right? You excited about that? So it got me thinking about what did I do as a kid? Like what you do before Facebook and just growing up. I learned a lot of useless talents, right? I can, I don't have a pen on me, but I can spin a pen on my finger. I can blow bubbles off my tongue. If I'm really bored, I can blow a bubble off my tongue and hit it with a pen. I also anyone here used to lay out and like put a towel on like 100-degree driveway, right? And I'd put lemon juice to lighten my black hair. And yeah. Also, my friend and I created a fake charity. No one would ever do that, right? So we created a fake charity, and we were called Friends of the Universe. And our charity was for a school for children without heads. Yeah, so I would spend hours and hours like cutting up National Geographic magazines and like pasting them and making these nice brochures, and we would send them to Sila Bahu, who was the head of the organization. Yeah, so that's what I did as a kid. And tonight I'm hoping to use a lot of these useful talents. Wait, useless talents. There you go. All right, so then I followed my sisters to A&M after I graduated high school. Have any Aggies here? Let's see. Okay, I got an Aggie joke for you. I did not write this one. Okay. Why did the Aggie stare at the frozen orange juice can? For 2 hours. Because it said concentrate. I really like Nathan up here. So I used to spend lots of hours, when I lived on campus, I used to spend a lot of hours watching people find a place to park, right? At A&M, it's like no one wanted to go anywhere because you'd lose your parking spot. So, as I said, my parents are from the Philippines. I love being Filipino. They have great food, right? And the food is really fun to say, like bibingka and makapuno and turon. It's like this plantain bananas. They have like, they're fried, and I like turon and I like to walk. So Filipinos are very expressive people. Do we have any Filipinos in the room? Would you raise your eyebrows? And they like to point with their lips. Or close the lights. Which ones? Doon. They also have a lot of nicknames. I have a Uncle Bino, Ding, Bong is my cousin. Bong's real name is Marcelino III. He named his 5th child his fourth son. He named his fifth child Marcelina the Fourth, okay? So they call him the Fourth for a nickname, okay? So when I went to the Philippines, we were shopping in a center and getting a souvenir. And so he came back with a necklace, and it had a D on it, like initial. And I was like, I don't understand why you have a D. And my cousin said, oh, the Fourth. That's a true story. So the other day, I was driving last week on the way home from CC, and I saw this car that was not really driving very well and was kind of hugging the right side of the road kind of slowly. And then on the side, it said, Asia Driving School. And I thought, okay, is this a company that like teaches Asians how to drive? Or is it a company that teaches you to drive like an Asian? So I really couldn't think which one it was. So I thought I would Google it. And their motto is safe drive and save life. There's a free commercial. If you want to drive like an Asian, I recommend you go to this Asia driving school. So after college and during college, I co-opted at IBM. And while I was there, I got to go to Boston every once. So I got to get on an assignment in Boston. And so I'd fly there every 3 weeks. Or they'd fly me home for the weekend every 3 weeks. And one of those times I was sitting in the exit row because I needed room for my long legs. And I was sitting between two other men, and the flight attendant came over and she looked right at me and said, "Do you speak English?" And I didn't really know why she was yelling at me, so I just said, "Coca-Cola, please." All right, my mom, she was actually the first person I know to have a mobile phone. She used to do home health like in the 80s. I don't know how many years ago that is. 30 years ago, right? It was the size of a typewriter. Do you guys know what a typewriter is? Yeah, and she kept it in her trunk, the trunk of her car. So fast forward 20 years, and she got her cell phone. So she calls me on her landline and tells me, "I got a new cell phone number. I want to give it to you." So a few days later, I wanted to call her, and I called her at home, no answer. So I called her on her cell phone, still no answer. Then later at home, I said, "I called you today and I couldn't get a hold of you." And she said, "Yeah, I was out." And I said, "Oh, did you bring your phone?" She said, "Of course, I brought my phone." I said, "Well, why didn't you have it?" She said, "Well, I don't turn it on unless I know you're going to call. If you tell me you're going to call, I will turn it on." I said, "Okay, but why don't you turn it on?" "I don't want to drain the battery." My problem is I cannot read without these. Okay. One day I went to lunch with a friend, and we were trying to decide where to go. And my friend Ann says, "I feel like Chinese." And I said, "So do I, but where do you want to eat?" So we went to this really authentic restaurant in Richardson, and there was a lot of Asians there. We were like looking around and saying, "Man, this is going to be a good Chinese meal." And Ann says to me, "I think we're the only white people here." And I looked at Ann and I said, "Coca-Cola." Okay, what's next? Okay, one other reason that we got started doing this was in October, my son Brandon and I did a joke challenge, a 100-day joke challenge, and we tried to write a joke every day in October. And Brandon is going to come share some Halloween jokes for you. He's got to get in costume here. What did one haunted house say to the other haunted house?
Haunted house a going.
What do you call a smart zombie?
Frankenstein.
Let me put this over here. Stand over here. What did one mummy say to the babysitter?
Where's my mummy?
What do you call a female ghost?
A girl.
What do you call a girl monster made of stone?
A gargoyle.
What do you call a black and yellow monster?
A zombie.
How do you know when a giant just won a trophy?
He says, trophy 505.
And what did one ghost say to the other ghost when the human was escaping?
Go stop that human.
All right, now you can sit down. I forget what we... Yeah, so for the joke challenge, it was really funny because I was like, I want to do this. And the first day, I did not do it. And he was like, I got a joke for you. I was like, I know, but this is like, I want to write a joke. The second day, I did not do it again. And I was like, man, I'm 2 days behind this joke challenge. And he was like, well, I got another joke for you. And I said, well, why don't we do this together? And then we both started writing jokes. So that's the story there. All right, when I dated a few guys during college and after college, and one time I was at home, and my dad, he said, "Can I give you some advice?" And I said, "Sure, I'm open to advice." And he says, "You might try an Asian." So Kevin and I, where is Kevin? Oh. Yeah. We have been married for 23 years. Yeah, you should clap about that. Yeah, 23 years is a great accomplishment. A bigger accomplishment than doing a stand-up on my 50th. I'm really, really grateful for him because without him I wouldn't have near as much material. So we hung out a little bit. We met playing sand volleyball at a singles league, and started hanging out a little bit. And so one day we went to lunch, and when I was leaving, I was like, it's really odd that we have 3 things that are very similar. The first was that both our moms were nurses. Second was we both drove the same exact car. We both drove Acura Integras. And third, we were both in the Navigators. The Navigators is a college ministry, different schools, also known as Navigators Never Daters. So when we went to lunch, though, I didn't really think of it as a date because 1, it was just like lunch, and 2, I paid for my meal, and 3, I already had a boyfriend. All right. But so no matter how I looked at it, it was not a date. So a few days later, he called me at work, and this was back when someone called you, you picked up the phone and went, hello? Right, with a question mark, because you did not know who was calling you, okay? And he said, hey, I want to ask you to go to a football game. It's this Friday night, and I just want to see if you wanted to go. And I said, I knew I could not do that because that would be a date, and I did not want to hurt his feelings. So I said, I might not be feeling well. Yeah. And he said, you may not be feeling well on Friday? I said, yeah, my throat is kind of sore. Yeah. So later that night, I called him back and I said, I'm dating somebody. So soon after that, we did start dating, and I was no longer two-timing, right? But during that time, it was like, man, I have feelings for two guys, and two guys have feelings for me, and what would it be like four guys like me, and I like four guys. Yes, I was the first bachelorette. So one of the very first, after we started dating, he was dropping me off at my car, and he said, I want you to know, I'm interested in you, and I think you're special. Yeah, oh. And I was thinking, that is the nicest thing anyone's ever told me. And so I said, okay, bye. So soon after that, my mom, I called my mom, and I said I started dating someone, I really, really like him. And my mom says, how old is he? I said, he's 29. And her question was, does he have any children? And I said, wait, I messed that up. Okay, wait. Okay, let me just back that up again. Okay, he said, she said, how old is he? And I said, 29. And she said, has he been married before? And I said, nobody has 3 kids. Brandon didn't quite get that one when I was practicing. He's like, he does have 3 kids. Okay, so when we got engaged, Kevin called my mom and my parents and my dad and just said, hey, I really want to marry your daughter. And my mom says, Bibian is a good girl, a very, very great gal, but she might not be tidy around the house. You might think I was like offended by that, but I was like really grateful because I like, you totally knew what you were getting. So our wedding was like any other wedding, right? You plan and plan and plan and plan, and then something always goes wrong, right? Do we have any engaged couples here? Anyone engaged? No, we scared you all off. All right, well, I have advice to people getting married, and it's be prepared to cry. All right? Is anyone here at our wedding? So what happened was, I was really excited during our engagement, but I was not really a very emotional person. But so I just was like, this is gonna be fine, right? But during our vows, I felt the biggest wave of emotion I have ever felt then and since. So this is a little bit how it went. I, Vivian, a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, take you, Kevin, and then I sobbed, okay? I sobbed, the kind when your shoulders are shaking and you can't control like the ugly face. So I sobbed for a long time, and then my pastor, Keith, said, are you okay? I felt another small wave coming on, and I said, no, I am not okay. So I cried so long that we had to have 2 VHS tapes for a video. No, we actually timed it, and it is over 60 seconds of crying. And I don't know if you know how long it is. That is a long time to cry. I was talking to Kevin and saying, what was that like for you? And he's like, well, at first I was like, oh, this is sweet. And then a few seconds goes by, he's like, oh man, that's nice, I guess. And then another 20 seconds, he's like, is she gonna leave? Yeah. It was really the longest minute of both of our lives, I think. So it was hard when we first got married. We agree on a lot of things, a lot of things, but we usually disagree like this. So usually I'll get my feelings hurt. I will tell Kevin. He won't say anything. I will tell him again with a little bit more emotion. And then he will get mad at me for getting upset. So then I think of a way that I could turn it around and put him in my shoes, and then the argument's over. But it was really a tough first month, first year, just because of that arguing. And you know, it's a lot of people tell you, hey, don't go to bed angry. And some people can sleep when they're angry, right? Some cannot. I'd be like, wake up, I'm mad at you. So we've done different things for our marriage. One was re-engage, and I'm so excited. I have like lots of people from re-engage here. But we worked so hard on our marriage for 9 months that I think he thought, okay, I'm good for like the next 10 years. So one time we went to a counselor, and it was one of those times in our marriage where we just disagreed about everything, about how to crack an egg and which cup to pour my coffee in. You know, I think of that, it's so silly now because he pours my coffee every morning, but usually I get mad at which cup he puts it in. But so I was telling the counselor, I was like, we cannot agree on anything. Like naming all these things that we disagree on, and then she looks at Kevin and he says, I disagree. There's a lot we agree on. And I was just like, okay. Coaching Frisbee about 5 years ago, and so yeah, I've slowed down a little bit. I wanted to show you a highlight reel, but I don't have any of me. So my motto is, I'm borrowing this from an old pastor of mine, I may be old, but I'm slow. So another completely useless skill that I learned from Frisbee was writing cheers. I do this, I was thinking about it. I think we've been playing about 20 years, maybe more. And a lot of those years I would be captaining a team, and after the games we would do a cheer for the other team. And so I was trying to think maybe how many cheers I might have written, maybe 200 or something in that 20 years. On the way to the ultimate field. Usually it's just like in 30 minutes, okay. So that's another useless skill that I'm going to share with you later. So we got pregnant, right? And when we were pregnant with Annie, we were trying to decide, we took that class at the hospital. We were trying to decide if we were wanting to go natural or we want to, you know, have an epidural. And Kevin was just like, I really think you should go natural. It's supposed to hurt, isn't it? It's in the Bible. Yeah, so I was 7 months pregnant, and it was like a Sunday afternoon. I'm laying on the couch, and Kevin says, can you come here for a second? And I said, I'm busy resting. So he said, I need your help. It'll only be a second. So I waddle waddled to the kitchen, and he has a rag, and he's standing by the refrigerator. And he says, okay, I'm gonna lift this refrigerator right here. I want you to hold it. I'm gonna clean underneath it. I said, I'm 7 months pregnant. You want me to hold the refrigerator while you clean underneath it? Yes. And I said, and what if I drop it? No. All right, when Annie was born, she was born 3 weeks early. She had born on the same day as her twin cousin. And Annie cried. She cried so much as a baby. She cried so much we called her Wanna instead of Anna. Then 2 years later, Lindsay was born. And she was born, where is she? There she is. Okay, with a full head of blonde hair, right? So, had the doctor not said anything, I would have thought that they switched her in the hospital. So, and I was very confused when she was born because I was like, did I cheat on my husband? And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Did he cheat on me? So, we've gotten a lot of funny comments over the years. The first was in the hospital. They brought the baby to me, and the nurse just opens the door, and starts laughing and says, I was told she had an Asian mom. A few months later, someone asked me, whose baby are you nursing? And I'm like, oh, I just thought I'd nurse this one. She looked kind of hungry. Another time I had both girls out. There was very, very cute kids, very beautiful kids. And someone came up and was like, she is so cute. Is she yours? I said, yeah, she is mine. And she said, she is so cute. She doesn't look anything like you. I was like, I don't know if I say thank you or... And so every Halloween I dress up as Lindsay's mom. I put on a blonde wig, and I'm Lindsay's mom. Remember the Y2K? Yeah. Lindsay was born in the year 2000. And Kevin was like, you know, this kid is always going to know how old they are. I said, yes, this will be our less intelligent child. I say that she is actually super smart. She can get over 100 on her calculus test. And I was like, you don't even need calculus. You're going to be an artist. But she does have some blonde moments every once in a while. Like the time she said, Mommy, I think I've asked you this before, but what does deja vu mean? All right. One time, the kids were about 4 and 6. And you know that time if you're like a stay-at-home mom, it's a time when everyone's hungry, the house is a mess, Daddy's coming home soon, you gotta do all the cooking and everything, and you're just trying to make it work. So Annie was laying on the couch reading a book, like she did so many times, and I hear, we lived in a small house, so I could hear most of the house. I hear, are you doing your chores? Lindsay says. And I don't hear Annie nod her head, but Lindsay says, I'm not. And I was listening in the other room, and I'm thinking, that sounds kind of disobedient. So, Lindsay, come here. Did you just say, are you doing your chores? And that you are not doing your chores. And she's like, So I said again, did you say, are you doing your chores and you are not doing your chores? That you are not. that make sense? Okay, and she said, yes. I said, well, go to your room, okay? I'll deal with you in a minute. So I finished cooking, and I go to the room, and this time she is crying. She is sobbing uncontrollably. And I said, Lindsay, you have 1 minute to stop crying or you're getting a spanking, all right? And I figure a minute is long enough because that's how long it took me to cry at my wedding. So I go back to the kitchen and more than a minute passes, okay? So what do you gotta do? You gotta spank, right? Because that's what I said. So I went and I spanked her. And right after all this, Kevin gets home, right? Normally, so we're sitting at dinner, and I kind of explain, this is what happened. And when I said, are you doing your chores? She said, I'm not. And when I said this, Annie tapped me on the shoulder and said, Mommy, I think she said, are you done with your chores? And I was like, ah. I felt this blood rush to my face, and my eyes started to tear up, and just because I realized I had spanked her for not doing, because I couldn't understand what she was saying. So I was like, I gotta fix this. So I told her I was sorry, and I wrote her this card that said, get out of spanking free. Your next one, you just get a freebie. You just give me this one and say, okay, I'm good. So a little bit later, she gave me $1. She was just like so grateful and so generous. She came by and she was like, I just want to give you this because I'm just so happy that you forgave me and that you're so sweet and gave me this card. So when I was putting her to bed, I said again, I'm really sorry. I messed up. And, I'm sorry about that. And she said, well, Annie wanted the card, and I asked for 9, but she only gave me $1. So actually, that card had never, I never spanked either one of them again. You still have the card, Annie? Right. All right. I'll be back in a minute. Right? Okay, actually, I'm just going to be back in a minute. Where's Lindsay?
Are you going to do the top 10?
Oh, was I supposed to do that
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's up next is very exciting. We're going to need the audience to cheer at some point. So Brandon gets to come back up here for us. Can we have a round of applause for Brandon? So we heard that they wrote 100 jokes, right? So we only heard a few of them. So we're going to hear a few more, but it's a little bit of a competition. So we're going to see who's really the funniest in the family.
Do you want to skip these or you want to do those?
Punchline is the one who wrote that joke.
I want you to
And you're just going to cheer for the funniest one.
Okay, but do you want to do these? Because these are ones where you have to start.
No, I don't want to do that.
Okay, we'll skip. Okay, so let's start here. I'll start here.
Okay, I think this is the only mic that works, so we're just going to go back and forth.
Okay. Where do you find baby soldiers?
In the infantry.
Okay, I'm going to lower this, okay? Can y'all see him okay? Okay. Now you read that one.
Where's the best state to have a knee replacement?
In Colorado, because they have $1 joints. Okay. What happened to the vegetable that messed with the bully?
It got beat up. What do you call a sick pig?
Uncured bacon. Why do flowers like biking?
Because they like to pedal. What's the weather going to be like for Christmas?
There'll be reindeer. Can you roll your R's yet?
But I can roll my eyes. What's the recruiter's favorite grocery store?
Aldi, because you get your quarterback. Let's see. Where could you find a horse?
At your neighbor's house. What did the barista say to the naughty bean?
That's it, you're grounded. What do you call a lion running for president?
Beto O'Rourke.
I like that one.
What's the turkey's favorite color and letter?
A gray V. What do you call a dog that likes art?
A labradoodle. What two halves don't make a whole?
To have Asians. Let's see.
You're the mama country.
Okay, what did the baby country say to the mama country?
I'm hungry.
What did the mama country say to... What did the mama country say?
Don't eat your neighbor turkey. What's it called when you get tired of tying knots at Boy Scouts?
We're going here? Okay. This is the last one. Okay. We don't have the sign. Okay. Let's try that again.
What's it called when you get tired of tying knots at Boy Scouts?
It's called monotonous.
That's
Say.
not funny.
Did you all hear that? He said, say it again.
That's not funny.
Okay, so before I perform this next stunt, my comedic advisor here recommended that when something was not funny, that I try it again with blueberries in my nose. Okay? And I don't suggest that you try this at home. Hold on. All right, go.
What's it called when you get tired of tying knots at Boy Scouts?
Monotonous. Oh, Graham. Everyone needs a comedic advisor like this. Yeah. They're really great. Good one. Can I sit back? Okay, I'll be back in just a minute. charity. I wanted to raise money for Allie's legacy, and where's Lindsay? Lindsay, yeah, if you can think about donating, it's a really good cause. Is one of Lindsay's friends that passed away 3 years ago, two or 3 years ago, from a ATV accident, and they're trying to build a gym for her. And she actually was a really fun, goofy person. She would love this. And so if you want to give, see Lindsay, she's gonna have a bucket. And so, yeah. So we're gonna have a little break here. So feel free to get more chips and queso, and then we're gonna wrap it up in a little bit.
I don't know that there's a ton of humor involved in the next piece, but there's a lot of joy, and you're welcome to sing along if you know the words.
Maybe I'll just say something about this opener. Is this hot? Is this hot?
No, this is on.
I don't see my sticks. Oh.
Yes, please sing along.
some of you might wonder what this is. This is a hammered dulcimer, and it's one of the only instruments that you can't play blindfolded. When about 20 years ago, for Christmas, I said, the only thing I really want is a hammered dulcimer, and Kevin got this for me. So. So we just had a break there, right? That break is symbolic of my life and our family's life, because we got married, we had Annie and Lindsay, and then we had a 10-year gap before we had Brandon. So yeah, they're 20, 18, and Brandon just turned 8. So a lot of times when I tell people that, they kind of laugh at that. The gap is kind of funny. They assume that Brandon was a surprise. But to be honest, it took me 5 years to convince Kevin to have another child, and then another 5 years to get pregnant. But it made me think, it's like, aren't all kids surprised? A surprise, it's not like a wife will tell her husband, hey, I'm pregnant, and he says, okay, you're pregnant, what's for dinner? I guess, okay, go on here. So when Brandon was born, it was really, really cool, because we wanted to do an old-fashioned gender reveal. Y'all want to know what that is? It's when you wait until he's born to find out. And so, yeah, we did that. But because I was so old, I had so many sonograms. I had 12 sonograms. And so we'd be like, yeah, this is a really great sonogram. She'd always say, cover your eyes. So when Brandon was born, he was a really good mix of Annie and Lindsay. Lindsay has blonde hair and blue eyes. Annie has brown hair and brown eyes. And Brandon was born with brown, blue eyes, but he had really, really cool hair. He had brown hair with white highlights. He had like a rock star, right? Like it was just like the tips, right? So when on his first pediatrician appointment, we brought him in, and he was like, "Did you dye his hair?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's okay, right?" And he like looked right back at me. He's like, "You did?" But very cool hair. So we had a couple of scary moments with Brandon. One time we went on a trip, and I recommend all families at some point take a really long road trip, just so you can see where your boundary is, right? We took a 17-day trip from all on the East Coast, and one of those days he was 14 months old, and he escaped from the hotel room. My mom was cooking, and the fire alarm went off. So we like opened all the doors and the windows, and then a little bit later I hear, "Where's Brandon?" And it's kind of a normal question. You're just like, "Oh, that's fine. He's around here somewhere." But then I hear again, "Where's Brandon?" And then we all start looking for him, and we look all over the room, and he is not there. So then we all spread out all over the hotel, and Annie was the first to find somebody, and so we're just like darting around. This is like a second floor of the hotel, and Annie runs by somebody, and they said, "Are you looking for a baby?" And she said, "Yes. But what did he look like?" Let me verify. What was he wearing? So So they had returned him downstairs. That was the funniest part of that scary moment. So my boy is always hungry. Anyone have a 7 or 8-year-old kid that's like always hungry? I think it's something like as if there's like an acting coach talking to him, I think. This happens, I lost the mic. Is there another mic? Or did I? Hey, Zach.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there we
Maybe
go.
it worked.
Can you hear me?
Nope, it quit.
Wait. What?
You can switch the battery. Two batteries. Take the battery out of that one.
Take the battery out? Okay. Hello.
It's working now.
Oh yeah, now it works. Is that you? Oh, it's intermittent. Wait, okay, I'll do that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. Okay, so this happens at least 2 or 3 times a week where I will be on the phone and it's as if he has an acting coach talking to him. And it goes like this. I'm hungry. And the acting coach says, okay, I want you to go right up to your mom. She didn't hear you. And I want you to whisper in a loud voice. I'm hungry. I still don't do anything. Next time, let's try it again. This time, I want you to rub your tummy and point to your mouth. I'm hungry. Still nothing. Okay, more emotion, more emotion. So he says that all day long, right? So one day I said, Brandon, when are you not hungry? And he thought for a moment and he said, when you give me something I don't like, I'm gonna lose my appetite. Yeah, so we started a new homeschool program, and you learn a lot of history and math and things with songs and music. So one day I was giving him a worksheet, and I left the room and came in, and he was like looking at the answers, and I'm like, Brandon, and he said, what? I had to see how to spell Peloponnesian. He is a smart kiddo. So he goes to a Friday school, and so the other day I picked him up and I said, well, what was your favorite part of today? And he said, well, we had recess in art. And I said, wow, you're allowed to have recess? And he said, yeah, why wouldn't I? I said, because this is a nut-free school, isn't it? Yeah, recess. I actually thought he said recess, and I was thinking, oh man, that sounds really yummy. Like, why do you have that? Wait, I missed it. What was it?
Oh my God.
So, about 10 years ago, we switched churches, and I love my church. There's one thing, though, that I wish that they would change, and that's communion, right? So I like having like bread for communion because it like symbolizes the body of Christ, right? Our church serves crushed crackers, right? And I'm like, what are we, the crumbs of Christ? They're so small, I have to like lick my fingers first and then pick them up and eat them. And so they also, like, I used to always kind of do it like as a personal thing. Our church likes to pass the cup around and then sing a whole song, okay? So I was really nervous when Brandon had his first communion because you have to take the cup and then we have to sing a whole song And we all watched him very carefully as he took the tiny cup and then he poured it carefully on Lindsay's yellow pants. Yes, Christ's blood poured out on us and for us. It was beautiful. So, I like this smartwatch. It's really old. It's 3 years old, which is like 99 years old in smartwatches, right? And we like to ask her a question. Normally Brandon is with me when we ask this question, and that question is, can you fart? And she'll respond with, no, but we all know you can. So I got this to replace my Fitbit, right? And I like to get like 10,000 steps. Sometimes if I fail to reach that over and over, like several days in a row, it will tell me, you might want to lower your goals. Which really means you are failing a lot. And so let's just make this easier on all of us, okay? That's actually really good relationship advice, I think. I remember when we had been married a couple of years, and we would go to bridal showers and things, and they'd have you fill out those advice cards. And most people would say, oh, pray together, go on a date every week, don't go to bed angry. I would write down, lower your expectations. So, one of the things that I think is like my superpower is finding things. A couple weeks ago, my daughter left her journal on the top of her car, and it was after youth group, and she drove off with it on the top of her car. And she actually realized it that night, went back, couldn't find it, went back the next day, couldn't find it, and 2 days later, I was driving along, and it was nighttime, and I found the journal on the side of the road, in the dark, in the rain, blindfolded. Now, you might think that is like my greatest find, but it isn't. One day, Kevin had been fixing our cars, and one of our cars, and he had to replace that catalytic converter. Yeah, the thing that like converts cats into lipstick. Yeah. So we ordered one off eBay, and he put it in, and he's like, I'm almost done. And then when he was finished, he was like, I cannot find one of the screws. It looks like this. I cannot find it. So he kept looking for it and looking for it. 4 days he looked for this screw. He's like, we have to buy another cat to lipstick converter. And I was like, can I look? So he's like, knock yourself out. So he put like a nice mat underneath the car, because I was like, I'd never ever been under a car before. So I got into the car, and I found it in 5 minutes. I was like, is this it? And you should have seen his face. It's the most like, you know when someone's like gratefully mad? I was like, yeah, that's it. So, you want to know why I'm good at finding things? Because I practice. I practice all the time. I lose things all the time. I lose my keys, I lose my sunglasses, I lose my phone, and just all the time I am losing things. If you need help finding something, just practice. So Annie left to go to Colorado last fall, and we really, really miss her. We miss her playing music and singing all the time, making popcorn, cleaning my bathroom. Yeah, ever since she had a cell phone, she used to clean my bathroom rather than a cell phone. I really miss a clean bathroom. So I also miss her loud sneezes. Now that she's gone, Brandon and I are left to be the loudest sneezers in the house, right? And Kevin kind of gets mad when we sneeze, a loud sneeze. But I am sure from all my research that if you hold in a sneeze, you will fart. I nominated one like that. Yeah. So in all seriousness, I miss her saying yum to all my cooking. But I did find a way to increase the appreciation of my cooking with my family, and that is to make something yucky. So the other day, something like pumpkin soup. Not the good kind, like from Panera or anything like that, but just like from a box, okay? So I made this, and the other day, everyone's kind of a little slow to eat. And then finally at the end, Kev's like, I don't like pumpkin. I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like pumpkin cookies. I don't like pumpkin soup. So that's just a tip there on how to get your family to appreciate your cooking and just make something really yucky. So I also miss her being my resident fashion advisor, right? She used to come and say, I know what you should wear, and she'd run to my closet and get me something cool to wear. Lindsay is helpful, but normally it's like, I'll come out and she'll just say, don't wear that. I'm like, well, what should I wear? I don't know, just don't wear that. So, I just turned 50, right? And in the doctor's office, I saw a sign that said, 1 in 2 women over the age of 50 will have a fracture related to osteoporosis in their lifetime. So man, I just joined that statistic. Now when I see an old lady with a cast or a boot, I just feel this deep sense of gratitude. I'm like, thank you, because my odds just got better. Let's stick together, and you can be the one of the 2 of us. So I got carded the other day. Just recently, I got carded. I was in Target. I was not buying alcohol. I was buying cough syrup. And it wasn't just any cough syrup, it was children's cough syrup. So I was actually like paying cash, going through the self-checkout, and it said, no, you gotta stop here. So I go to the lady and I show her my ID, and she says, no, I need to see that. I need you to take that out of your wallet. So I take my wallet, take it out of my wallet, I hand her my driver's license, I show her that I'm 49, even though I'm buying children's cough syrup for my coughing child that is with me right here. So I love Target, right? But I like to make small talk with the cashiers because sometimes your items are like really, really random. So this day was no different. I had strawberries, and toilet paper, dishwasher soap, and a package of panties. Well, I put my stuff on the belt, and then I scooted over next to the credit card machine, and I'm just waiting there, and then this guy comes and stands behind me, and I notice that my package of panties has now crossed over to the separator thing. So I said, those are my panties, to the Target lady. And of course she did not hear me. So I say a little bit louder, those are my panties. And she says, oh, these extra, extra large bikini briefs are yours? I said, yes, thank you so much. So I actually haven't always bought my underwear at Target. When I want really special monogrammed underwear, I go to Victoria's Secret. You get it? VS. They have my initials at Victoria's Secret. I share that only with my niece, V, who's also VS. It was actually really funny because I was in that store and I was like, they are my initials! So awesome! So, yeah. So I started this out with my dad, and he has been a real inspiration to me. He's always had a joke, and a lot of times he's always telling us the same joke over and over. They couldn't be here tonight because he is on hospice. He's actually been on hospice for like 14 months, which is a long time. They live in Houston. And so last week, 2 weeks ago, I went down to watch him. My mom was going to an appointment, and I needed to be there while I could watch him. And so I was a little bit nervous just because my mom is a nurse, as I said, and she's watched him 24/7. And so she gave me a piece of paper that had 3 numbers on it. One was her cell phone, the other one was lift assist, and the third one was hospice. And I said, okay, I understand these, but Mom, when would I call hospice? And she says, death? I don't know, y'all supposed to laugh at that. It was actually really funny. I just busted out laughing, and I was like, death? And I said, and she said, but I prefer if you call me first, though, if possible. I think now we're gonna have the next scene we're gonna do.
So now is the part in the evening where I get to talk about something that's really important to me. Some of y'all have heard about this cause. In the past, there's abuse hiding in our society that none of us really recognize. And tonight I'd like to ask a few of my dear friends to come up and share their stories. We all have dads in this room, and dads seem to take it upon themselves to just embarrass us. And we're going to recognize the true pain that really causes in our lives now. One moment.
So, when I was really little, I asked my dad if he would put on my shoes. And I don't know if he really understood, because he said, no, I don't think they would fit me.
So, one day, me and my dad were at the park. I came out of the bathroom and he told me, so, you're American when you walk into the bathroom, and you're American when you come out. But what are you when you're inside of the bathroom? European.
It has been really difficult for Kendra to put on her shoes and for Randy to go to the bathroom or understand his race for a long time now.
So, the last time I went to the grocery store with my father, the lady just casually asked him, "Sir, do you want your milk in the bag?" And he said, "No, ma'am. Please leave it in the carton."
So, one day, me and my dad were just out on the ranch. He told me, 2 men walk into a bar. The third one ducks.
Randy doesn't understand how to go to bars anymore.
got a package. My dad went out to get it, and when he came in, he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "Did you hear the news? UPS and FedEx are joining. And from now on, they're gonna call it Fed Up." So, my dad.
It's very difficult for us. Thank you for hearing about this difficult abuse in our lives, and please don't encourage dad jokes anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vivian Scott.
All right, thank you so much for coming. I have a lot of people that I want to thank. A lot of people were a great encouragement to do this. A lot of people that turned 50, and almost everybody that I was like, would you do this? We're like, sure, I'll do it. So thank you, Aaron and Elisa and Kent and specifically my family. Kevin was really trying to talk me out of it, but I'm going to do it anyway. But they were really great to listen to my jokes and say, okay, don't do that one, that's not funny, that was not appropriate, yeah. And of course, Brandon too was a huge help. I don't think I could have done it without you, buddy.
There's a photo booth in the other room, and we might want to rearrange chairs or tables, so if you have some helping hands, we'd like help with that. And there's cake and coffee to be served to your right.